Hello, everyone. Welcome to English in Advance. I'm your host, Jessica, and I'm so happy you've decided to join me today for our special listening and speaking practice session. This podcast is designed for intermediate learners around the B1 to B2 level who want to take their English skills to the next level. We're not just going to listen, we're going to actively engage with the language, understand the nuances of everyday conversation, and practice speaking so you can build the fluency and confidence you need in real-world situations. Today, we have a wonderful story for you. It's a story about a new beginning, about moving to a new city and all the little adventures and challenges that come with it. Our plan for today is simple, but very effective. First, you will listen to a part of our story. I want you to just relax and listen. Try to understand the main idea, the feelings of the characters, and the situation they are in. Don't worry if you don't understand every single word. The goal of the first listen is to get the gist of it, to understand the overall meaning. After you listen, I will come back in and we will break it down together. I'll highlight some key vocabulary and useful phrases that you heard in the story. We'll talk about what they mean and, more importantly, how you can use them in your own conversations. Then comes the most important part, your turn to practice. I will give you prompts and situations where you can use the new language yourself. There will be pauses in the audio for you to speak out loud. Please don't be shy. The more you practice speaking, the more natural it will become. Our story today is about a young woman named Clara. She is a graphic designer who has just accepted a new job in a bustling city called Northwood, a place she has only ever seen in pictures. She's leaving her small, quiet hometown behind for a big adventure. As our story begins, Clara is on a train watching the countryside blur past her window, heading towards her new life. She is a mix of excitement and nervousness. Let's join her on this journey. Try to picture the scene, the rhythmic sound of the train on the tracks, the changing landscape outside, and the thoughts racing through Clara's mind. Ready? Let's listen to the first part of our story. The train rattled gently, a soothing, rhythmic clatter that had been the soundtrack to Clara's thoughts for the past 3 hours. Outside, rolling green hills were slowly giving way to more densely packed houses, a sure sign that she was getting closer to Northwood. She clutched her lukewarm cup of coffee, her knuckles white. Was she doing the right thing? The question had been looping in her mind ever since she had packed the last box and said a tearful goodbye to her parents. Her hometown, with its familiar faces and quiet streets, felt a world away now. The job offer at Creative Spark, a top design agency, had been a dream come true, an opportunity too good to pass up. Yet the fear of the unknown was a cold knot in her stomach. She was a bundle of nerves, and she took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. This was her chance to turn over a new leaf, to build a life for herself on her own terms. The train began to slow, and a recorded voice announced their imminent arrival at Northwood Central Station. Clara's heart started to pound against her ribs. She gathered her small backpack and her coat, her eyes wide as she peered out the window at the sprawling cityscape coming into view. This was it. No turning back now. She just hoped she could get her bearings quickly in this huge new place. Welcome back. How was that? Did you get a sense of Clara's feelings? She's excited but also very nervous, which is completely normal when you're starting a new chapter in life. Now let's look at some of the wonderful phrases used in that section. They are very common in everyday English and will make your speaking sound much more natural. The first phrase I want to highlight is a bundle of nerves. In the story it said, she was a bundle of nerves. This is a fantastic idiom. If you are a bundle of nerves, it means you are extremely nervous, worried, or anxious about something. Imagine all your nerves are tied up together in a tight ball or bundle. That's the feeling it describes. For example, before a big exam or a job interview, you could say, "I'm a bundle of nerves today. I hope I do well." Or if you see your friend pacing back and forth before giving a speech, you might ask, "Are you okay? You seem like a bundle of nerves." It's a very descriptive way to talk about that shaky, anxious feeling. Now, let's practice this one. I want you to imagine you are about to meet your partner's parents for the very first time. You are waiting at the door, about to ring the bell. How are you feeling? Try to answer using the phrase, "a bundle of nerves." I'll give you a moment to think and speak your answer out loud. Go ahead. Great. You might have said something like, "I'm a complete bundle of nerves right now," or "waiting here is making me a bundle of nerves." Excellent work. The next phrase is to turn over a new leaf. The story said, this was her chance to turn over a new leaf. This is another beautiful idiom. It means to start fresh, to change your behavior or your life for the better. Think of turning a page in a book to start a new, clean page. That's the image. It's often used when someone decides to stop a bad habit or to make a significant positive change. For instance, someone might say, "After I recovered from my illness, I decided to turn over a new leaf and start eating healthily and exercising every day." Or, "He promised to turn over a new leaf and stop being late for work all the time." It's about making a conscious decision to improve. Now it's your turn to use it. Imagine your friend has been feeling a bit down and unmotivated for a few weeks. You want to encourage them to make a positive change. What could you say to them using the phrase, "turn over a new leaf"? Think about it and say your sentence. Wonderful. A great answer would be something like, Maybe it's time to turn over a new leaf. We could start going for walks in the morning together. Or, why don't you turn over a new leaf and apply for that course you've always wanted to do? You're suggesting a fresh start, and the last phrase from this section is, get my bearings. Clara thought to herself, she just hoped she could get her bearings quickly. To get your bearings means to figure out where you are or to become familiar with a new situation. It's not just about physical location, like reading a map. It can also be about understanding the rules or the social environment in a new job or a new school. For example, on your first day in a new city, you might walk around your hotel to get your bearings. Or on a new job, you might say to a colleague, "It's my first day, so I'm still trying to get my bearings. Could you show me where the coffee machine is?" It's about becoming comfortable and oriented. Let's practice this one. Imagine you've just started a new online course. There are many different sections on the website, and you feel a little lost. You send a message to the course instructor. What would you write? Use the phrase, "get my bearings." Take a moment to compose your message and say it out loud. Perfect. You might have said something like, "Hi, I'm a new student and I'm just trying to get my bearings with the course website. Could you tell me where to find the schedule?" That's a perfect use of the phrase. Fantastic job. You see how these phrases bring the language to life? Now let's return to our story. Clara is getting off the train at Northwood Central Station. The platform is crowded and noisy. She is supposed to meet her new roommate, Leo, who she has only spoken to online. He's going to help her move into their shared apartment. Let's see what happens next. The train doors hissed open, and a wave of people swept Clara onto the platform. The station was a cavern of noise and movement. People rushed past her, pulling suitcases, talking on their phones, their voices echoing in the vast, high-ceilinged hall. For a moment, she felt a pang of panic. How would she ever find one person in this sea of strangers? She had a photo of Leo on her phone, a cheerful guy with curly brown hair and glasses, posing with a large golden retriever. She found a slightly quieter spot by a pillar and pulled out her phone, her thumb hovering over his name. Just as she was about to call, a voice called out, "You must be Clara." She looked up to see the man from the photo hurrying towards her, a wide, friendly grin on his face. He wasn't with the dog, which was probably for the best in this crowd. "Leo?" she asked, a wave of relief washing over her. "The one and only," he said, his voice warm and welcoming. "Welcome to Northwood. How was the trip?" "It was long, but good," she managed to say, smiling back. "I was just about to call you. This place is a bit overwhelming." "Tell me about it," he laughed. "You get used to it. Here, let me grab one of your bags. My car is just a stone's throw away from here. We'll have you home in no time." Okay, welcome back. A successful meeting. Leo seems very friendly, which is a good start for Clara. Let's dive into the language from that part of the story. There are some really common and useful expressions here. The first one is you must be, followed by a name. Leo said, "You must be Clara." This is a very polite and common way to greet someone you are expecting but have never met in person. Using the word must shows that you are fairly certain based on the context. For example, you see a person looking for your house number and you know you have a delivery coming. You could open the door and say, "You must be the delivery driver." It's friendlier than just asking, "Are you Clara?" which can sound a bit direct. Let's do a quick practice. Imagine you are at a cafe. You are waiting for a friend of a friend named Sarah to arrive. You've never met her, but your friend showed you a picture. A woman who looks just like the picture walks in and looks around. What do you say to her? Go ahead. Exactly. You'd stand up and say, "You must be Sarah." It's the perfect way to start the conversation. Next up, a simple but essential phrase. Grab one of your bags. Leo says, "Here, let me grab one of your bags." In this context, grab is a casual, friendly synonym for take or carry. It's very common in informal speech. You might say to a friend who has a lot of groceries, "Let me grab a few of those for you." Or before leaving the house, you might say, "I just need to grab my jacket." It's quicker and more natural sounding than saying, "I need to take my jacket." For your practice, imagine you and your family are packing the car for a holiday. Your father is trying to carry a large, heavy cooler by himself. You want to help him. What friendly offer can you make using the word grab? Speak it out. Great. You could say, "Dad, let me grab that for you," or "Hey, I can grab one side of that." It shows you're ready and willing to help. The final phrase from that section is a stone's throw away. Leo mentions his car is just a stone's throw away from here. This is a lovely idiom that means something is very close, very nearby. Imagine you could literally throw a stone and hit the location. That's how close it is. It's a much more descriptive way of saying it's not far. For example, the beach is just a stone's throw from our hotel, or I love my new apartment. There's a great cafe just a stone's throw away. Now, for your practice. A tourist stops you on the street and asks you where the nearest pharmacy is. Luckily, there is one right around the corner. How would you tell them it's very close using this idiom? Take a moment. Perfect. You could point and say, "Oh, it's very easy. There's a pharmacy just a stone's throw from here, right on the next street." They would definitely understand that it's not a long walk. You are doing an amazing job. By breaking down these conversations, we can really see how native speakers use language in a relaxed and natural way. Now let's get back to the story. Clara and Leo are heading to his car, about to drive to their apartment. This will be Clara's first proper look at her new city. Leo led her through a maze of corridors and out into a multi-story car park. The air, thick with the smell of exhaust fumes, was a stark contrast to the clean country air she was used to. Leo's car, a small, slightly battered blue hatchback, was packed with a surprising number of plants on the back seat. He noticed her looking. "Sorry about the jungle," he chuckled, carefully moving a large fern to make space for her bags. "I'm a bit of a plant, Dad. They're my welcoming committee for you." Clara laughed, feeling more at ease. "I love them. It makes the car feel alive." As they drove out of the car park and into the city streets, Clara was captivated. The architecture was a jumble of old and new. Grand, ornate stone buildings stood shoulder to shoulder with sleek glass-fronted towers that seemed to scrape the sky. The streets were teeming with life. Yellow taxis honked, cyclists weaved through traffic, and pedestrians hurried along the pavements, a kaleidoscope of faces and styles. "It's so much bigger than I imagined," she said, her face pressed against the window. "You'll get the hang of it," Leo reassured her. "Our neighborhood, Riverside, is much quieter. It's got a real community feel, which is nice. We're nearly there. I hope you're not let down by the apartment. The pictures online can be a bit flattering, you know." Clara's stomach did a little flip. "Oh, well, as long as it has a roof and a working shower, I'm sure it will be fine," she said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. "All right, what a vivid description of Northwood." And a little bit of worry from Clara at the end there. Let's unpack some of the language. First, let's talk about Leo's description of himself as a plant dad. This is a very modern, informal term. A plant dad, or plant mom, is simply someone who owns and loves taking care of many houseplants. They treat their plants with the same care and affection someone might treat a pet. It's a playful term that has become very popular. You might hear someone say, "I can't go on holiday for 2 weeks. Who will water my babies? I'm a dedicated plant mom." It shows a certain personality, caring, nurturing, and perhaps a bit trendy. Let's try a practice for this one. Imagine you visit your friend's apartment for the first time, and you see that every windowsill and shelf is filled with beautiful, healthy plants. You are very impressed. What compliment could you give them using this modern phrase? Say it out loud. Excellent. You could say something like, "Wow, look at all these plants. You are a total plant mom. They look amazing." Or, "You're a real plant dad, aren't you? This place looks like a beautiful greenhouse." It's a fun and friendly compliment. Next, the phrase, "get the hang of it." Leo tells Clara, "You'll get the hang of it," referring to navigating the big city. This is an extremely common and useful idiom. It means to learn how to do something, to become proficient at it after some practice. It's especially used for skills that might seem difficult or confusing at first. For example, when you first learn to drive a car, it can be scary, but after a few lessons, you start to get the hang of it. Or if you're learning a new video game, you might say, "The controls are a bit tricky, but I think I'm starting to get the hang of it." Now it's your turn. Your little brother is trying to learn how to ride a bicycle. He keeps falling and is getting frustrated. What encouraging words can you say to him using the phrase, "get the hang of it"? Go on, say it out loud, and that's perfect encouragement. You could say, "Don't give up. It's tricky at first, but you'll get the hang of it soon, I promise." It gives him hope that it will get easier. The last expression I want to look at from that part is when Clara feels her stomach do a little flip. This is a great way to describe a sudden feeling of nervousness or excitement. It's a very physical description of an emotion. Imagine that brief, lurching feeling you get on a roller coaster. That's a stomach flip. You might feel your stomach flip when you're waiting for important news or when you see someone you have a crush on. For example, every time the phone rang, my stomach did a flip. I was so anxious about the results. Or on a more positive note, when he smiled at me, I felt my stomach do a flip. Let's do a practice. You are about to go on stage to perform a song in front of a large audience. The host calls your name. Describe the feeling you have in that exact moment using the phrase we just learned. Say your sentence. Brilliant. You could say, "When I heard my name, my stomach did a complete flip, but I took a deep breath and walked onto the stage." It perfectly captures that mix of fear and adrenaline. You're all doing so well. This is how you build a rich and flexible vocabulary. Let's continue with the story. Clara and Leo have just arrived at their apartment building in the Riverside neighborhood. Clara is about to see her new home for the very first time. She's hoping it lives up to her expectations. The car turned onto a quiet, tree-lined street with rows of charming brick buildings. It was a world away from the concrete and glass of the city center. Leo pulled up in front of a handsome 4-story building with large windows and a dark green door. "Here we are," he announced cheerfully. "Home sweet home." They carried her bags up 2 flights of stairs. The hallway was a bit dark and smelled faintly of old books and polish. Leo unlocked a door at the end of the hall and pushed it open. "Welcome to the sanctuary," he said with a flourish. The apartment was spacious. That was the first word that came to Clara's mind. The living room had incredibly high ceilings and a huge window that let in a flood of afternoon light. The furniture was a comfortable-looking mix of second-hand pieces, and of course there were plants everywhere. It wasn't modern or sleek, but it had character. "Wow," Clara breathed out, a genuine smile spreading across her face. "It's lovely, Leo." It's so much bigger than my old place. I'm glad you like it, he said, clearly relieved. Your room is this way. It's not huge, but it has a good view of the community garden out back. I figured you might find it inspiring. He showed her into a cozy room with a bed, a desk, and an empty bookshelf waiting to be filled. The view was just as he'd described, a patchwork of green vegetable plots and colorful flowers. It was perfect. Suddenly, there was a loud gurgling sound from the kitchen, followed by a drip, drip, drip. Oh, don't mind that, Leo said quickly, perhaps a little too quickly. The kitchen sink is a bit of a diva. It likes to make its presence known. I've been meaning to get around to fixing it. I'm so glad Clara loves the apartment. It sounds like it has a lot of charm, but also a leaky sink. Let's examine some of the language in this section. First, the classic phrase, home sweet home. Leo says this as they arrive at the building. This is a very common and affectionate expression used to show happiness and relief at being home after being away, or when arriving at one's home. It conveys a sense of comfort, safety, and belonging. You might say it after returning from a long, tiring holiday as you drop your bags by the door. Ah, home, sweet home. Or even when you finally move into a new house after weeks of searching, you could unlock the door for the first time and say, well, home, sweet home. For your practice, imagine you have been stuck in traffic for 2 hours on your way back from work. You finally pull into your driveway, get out of the car, and stretch. What do you say to yourself? Go ahead. Exactly. A big sigh, and then, ah, home, sweet home. It's the perfect expression for that feeling of relief. Next, let's look at the phrase, let in a flood of light. This was used to describe the big window in the living room. It's a very poetic and descriptive way to say that a lot of light comes through the window. Using the word flood creates a powerful image of light pouring into the room like water. It's much more evocative than just saying the room was very bright. You can use it to describe other things too. For example, when they opened the doors, a flood of people poured into the concert hall. Or, after the interview, she felt a flood of relief. Now let's have you use it. You are describing your dream house to a friend. You are talking about the kitchen, which you want to be very bright and sunny. How would you describe the windows? Use the phrase, a flood of light. Beautiful. You might say, and my dream kitchen would have huge glass doors that open to the garden and let in a flood of natural light in the morning. It paints a very clear and appealing picture. Finally, there's the interesting phrase Leo uses. I've been meaning to get around to fixing it. The key part here is get around to it. This is a phrasal verb that means to finally do something that you have intended to do for a long time. It implies that you have been busy or have been procrastinating. It's very common in everyday speech when talking about chores or tasks. For example, I've been meaning to get around to cleaning out the garage for months, but I just haven't had the time. Or, have you called the plumber yet? No, I haven't gotten around to it yet. This is a really useful one to practice. Imagine your room is very messy. Your mother comes in and asks you why you haven't tidied it up yet. You want to tell her that you intended to, but you've been busy with homework. What do you say? Use the phrase, get around to it. A perfect excuse. You could say, I'm so sorry, Mom. I've been meaning to get around to it all weekend, but I've been swamped with my history project. I'll do it tonight. Excellent work. You're really starting to sound like a natural. So Clara is in her new home. She likes the apartment. She likes her roommate. But there's a small problem in the kitchen. What happens next? Let's listen. Clara unpacked a few essentials, placing her favorite books on the empty shelf and setting up her laptop on the desk. The dripping sound from the kitchen was a constant rhythmic punctuation to the silence. After a while, her curiosity got the better of her. She found Leo in the kitchen, peering under the sink with a worried expression. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Just the usual drama," he sighed, wiping his hands on a tea towel. "This pipe fitting is the culprit. It comes loose every now and then. I usually just tighten it, but I think it might be on its last legs this time." He fiddled with a wrench for a moment before a small spray of water shot out, hitting his glasses. "Okay, new plan," he said, laughing as he wiped them clean. "I'll call the landlady, Mrs. Gable. She lives downstairs. She's a bit of a character, but she's usually pretty good about repairs. She'll probably want to come up and inspect the damage herself. Don't be put off by her manner. She's all bark and no bite." Just then the doorbell rang. Leo's eyes widened. "Speak of the devil," he whispered. "That'll be her. She has a sixth sense for household emergencies. Oh, a bit of drama with the plumbing, and it seems we are about to meet the landlady, Mrs. Gable. Let's look at the language from that scene. First, the phrase, get the better of her. The script said, her curiosity got the better of her. This means that you can't stop yourself from doing something because a strong feeling or impulse, like curiosity, anger, or even sleepiness, is too powerful to resist. You lose the battle against that feeling. For example, I was trying to be serious, but my laughter got the better of me. Or, I knew I shouldn't eat another piece of cake, but my hunger got the better of me. Now, let's practice. Imagine you are in a very important, very quiet meeting. Your friend sitting next to you tells you a very funny joke by whispering it to you. You are trying very hard not to laugh, but you fail. How would you describe what happened later? Use the phrase, got the better of me. That's it. You could explain, "I tried so hard to keep a straight face, but his joke was just too funny and my laughter got the better of me. It was so embarrassing." Next, let's look at the idiom Leo uses to describe the pipe, "on its last legs." He says, "I think it might be on its last legs this time." If something is on its last legs, it means it is old, in very bad condition, and about to stop working or break completely. It can be used for objects like a car or a computer, but it can also be used humorously to talk about a person who is very tired. For example, "My old laptop is really on its last legs. It takes 10 minutes just to start up." Or after a long hike, you might say, "I think I can walk a little further, but I'm on my last legs." Time for you to try. You have a favorite pair of running shoes. You have worn them for years, and now they have holes in them and the sole is coming off. Your friend tells you to buy a new pair. What do you say about your old shoes? Use the idiom "on its last legs." Great. You could say, "I know, you're right. I love these shoes, but they're definitely on their last legs." Finally, we have two great idioms that came one after the other. The first is "all bark and no bite." Leo uses this to describe Mrs. Gable, the landlady. If a person is all bark and no bite, it means they seem very tough, angry, or threatening on the outside, but they are not actually dangerous or unkind. Their words are worse than their actions. It comes from the idea of a dog that barks loudly but never actually bites anyone. For example, "My boss shouts a lot when he's stressed, but he's all bark and no bite. He's actually very fair." The second idiom was "speak of the devil." Leo whispers this when Mrs. Gable rings the doorbell just after he was talking about her. We use this phrase when a person you have just been talking about appears unexpectedly. It's a shortened version of the full proverb, "Speak of the devil and he shall appear." It's very common and used in a light-hearted, surprised way. For example, you are telling your friend a story about your colleague, Mark. And then Mark said, just at that moment, Mark walks into the room. You would turn to your friend and say, "Well, speak of the devil. We were just talking about you, Mark." Let's combine these for a practice. Imagine you are telling your roommate about your strict-looking new neighbor. You say that you think he is probably not as mean as he looks. Just as you say this, your neighbor walks past your open door. What two phrases could you use in this situation? First, to describe your neighbor's personality, and second, to express your surprise at his sudden appearance. Try to form a couple of sentences. Fantastic! You might say to your roommate, "I really think he's all bark and no bite. He just seems very serious." Then, as the neighbor walks past, you would whisper, "Oh, speak of the devil." That's a perfect scenario for using both expressions. This is getting interesting. The landlady has arrived. What is she like? Let's find out. Let's listen to the next part of the story. Leo opened the door to a small, energetic woman with sharp blue eyes and a cloud of white hair pinned neatly on her head. She was holding a small toolbox. "I heard a dripping," she announced, her voice surprisingly firm. "11th drip per minute. It's a G flat. It's been driving me mad for the last hour. Is it the kitchen sink again, Leo?" "Hello, Mrs. Gable," Leo said, stepping aside. "You have impeccable hearing. Yes, it's the sink. I'm afraid the fitting has given up the ghost this time." Mrs. Gable walked past him and straight into the kitchen, her eyes immediately finding Clara. She looked her up and down. "So you're the new one," she said, her tone neutral. "The artist." "Graphic designer, actually," Clara corrected her gently, offering a hand. "I'm Clara." "It's very nice to meet you." Mrs. Gable ignored her hand and peered at the dripping pipe. "Artist? Designer? It's all the same to me. You make messes. Just don't get any paint on the wooden floors." She opened her toolbox. "Well, let's not stand around gawking." "This won't fix itself." Despite her brisk manner, she worked with an impressive efficiency, quickly replacing the faulty part with a new one she had in her box. Within 10 minutes, the dripping had stopped. Silence. "There," she said, standing up and wiping her hands on a rag. "Good as new. You owe me for the part. I'll add it to the rent." And with that, she turned and walked out, closing the door firmly behind her. Clara stared at the closed door, then looked at Leo, bewildered. Leo just grinned. "See? All bark, no bite. She fixed it in 10 minutes. Welcome to the building." Wow. Mrs. Gable is certainly a character, just as Leo said. She seems very direct, but also very capable. Let's look at the language she and Leo used. The first phrase I want to focus on is "given up the ghost." Leo says, "I'm afraid the fitting has given up the ghost this time." This is a slightly old-fashioned but very charming idiom that means something has stopped working completely. It has died. It's most often used for machines or objects. It's a bit more dramatic and final than saying something is broken. For example, "I tried to start the car this morning, but the engine has finally given up the ghost." Or, "I think my old television has given up the ghost. The screen just went black." Time to practice. You are trying to use a very old printer to print an important document. It makes a few strange noises, and then smoke starts coming out of the back before it goes completely silent. Later, your colleague asks if you managed to print the document. What do you tell them about the printer? So, that's a great way to put it. You could say, "No, I couldn't. The printer made a horrible noise and then it completely gave up the ghost." Next, Mrs. Gable says, "Let's not stand around gawking." To gawk means to stare at something or someone in a stupid, open-mouthed way, usually without thinking. It implies a kind of useless, dumb staring. Mrs. Gable is a practical woman. She wants to get the job done, not have people just stand and watch her. You might hear a parent say to their children who are staring at an accident, "Stop gawking and come away from the window." It's a word that suggests you should either help or mind your own business. Let's do a practice scenario. Imagine you and your friends are walking down the street and you see a street performer doing an amazing magic trick. You all stop and stare in amazement with your mouths open. A person trying to get past you on the narrow pavement might say something to you. What might he say, using the word gawk? Exactly. He might say, a bit impatiently, "Excuse me, could you stop gawking in the middle of the pavement so people can get by?" It's a little rude, but it gets the point across. Finally, let's look at the phrase, "good as new." Mrs. Gable says this after she's fixed the pipe. This expression means that something has been repaired or restored so well that it is now in perfect condition, as if it were brand new. It's a very common phrase to use after fixing something successfully. For example, after a mechanic fixes your car, he might say, "Right, I've replaced the engine part. She's good as new now." Or if you wash a stained shirt and the stain comes out completely, you might hold it up and say, "Look, good as new." Now for your turn. You dropped your phone and the screen cracked badly. You took it to a repair shop. When you get it back, the screen is perfect and polished. You show it to your friend. What do you say about your phone? Perfect. You would say, "I can't believe it. Look, it's good as new. You can't even tell it was broken." Okay, fantastic work. The immediate drama of the sink is over. It's Clara's first evening in her new home. She's tired from the journey and the excitement, but this is a great chance for her to get to know her new roommate a little better. Let's see what happens next. After the whirlwind visit from Mrs. Gable, the apartment felt strangely quiet. Clara finished unpacking her clothes, the silence of her room making her feel a little lonely. She could hear Leo moving around in the kitchen and the gentle clinking of pots and pans. She took a deep breath and went to join him. "Can I help with anything?" she asked. Leo turned from the stove, a wooden spoon in his hand. "I was just about to whip something up for dinner. Nothing fancy, just some pasta. Are you hungry?" "Starving, actually," she admitted, "but you don't have to cook for me." "Nonsense," he said with a wave of his spoon. "It's your first night. We can't let you starve. Besides, I make a mean tomato sauce. You can be my official taste tester." He seemed so genuinely happy to cook that Clara couldn't refuse. She leaned against the counter, watching him. "So," she began, "is Mrs. Gable always that efficient?" Leo laughed. "That's a polite way of putting it." "She's been the landlady here for 30 years. She knows this building like the back of her hand. Every creak in the floorboards, every leaky pipe. She's tough, but she's fair." "It feels a bit strange," Clara confessed, being in a brand new place where I don't know anyone. I get that, Leo said, pausing to stir the sauce. I felt the same when I first moved to Northwood for university. It can feel like you're a bit out of your depth for a while, but you'll find your rhythm. This neighborhood is a good place to start. That was a really nice, quiet moment between the new roommates. Cooking together is such a great way to break the ice. Let's look at the useful, everyday phrases from their conversation. First, Leo said he was going to whip something up for dinner. This is a very common, informal phrasal verb. To whip something up means to cook or prepare a meal very quickly and easily. It suggests that the meal is simple and doesn't require a lot of effort or planning. You might use it when a friend visits unexpectedly and you say, "I don't have much in the fridge, but I can whip up some scrambled eggs for us." It's a very casual and friendly expression. Let's practice this one. You come home from work and you are very tired. Your partner asks what you want for dinner. You don't want a big meal, just something fast. What could you say? Use the phrase, whip something up. Excellent. You could say, I'm exhausted. Let's just whip something up quickly. Maybe a sandwich or a quick salad. It's perfect for that situation. Next, Leo says that Mrs. Gable knows this building like the back of her hand. This is a wonderful idiom. If you know a place or a subject like the back of your hand, it means you know it extremely well. You are completely familiar with it. Think about your own hand. You know every line and detail without even thinking. That's the level of familiarity this idiom describes. For example, a taxi driver might say, "Don't worry, I'll get you there quickly." I know this city like the back of my hand. Now it's your turn. You are on holiday with a friend in a city where you used to live for many years. Your friend suggests using a map to find a good restaurant. You don't think you need one. What do you say to your friend? Perfect. You could say with confidence, "We don't need a map. I used to live here. I know this part of town like the back of my hand. Follow me." Finally, Clara admits to feeling a bit out of my depth. This is a fantastic idiom for expressing a feeling of being in a situation that is too difficult or too complex for you to handle. Imagine being in water that is so deep your feet can't touch the bottom. That's the feeling of being out of your depth. You feel overwhelmed and not in control. For example, I thought I could handle the advanced math class, but on the first day I realized I was completely out of my depth. Let's have you practice this one. Imagine you agreed to help your friend fix their computer. But when you open it up, you see it's much more complicated than you thought. Your friend asks if you can fix it. What is your honest answer? Whoa, great. A good honest answer would be, I thought I could help. But looking at all these wires, I have to admit I'm a bit out of my depth here. We should probably call a professional. You are all doing so well. This is how you build a rich and flexible vocabulary. Now let's jump forward in time. Clara has survived her first evening. It's the next morning, and she's about to start the next big part of her adventure. Her first day at her new job at Creative Spark. She's probably feeling like a bundle of nerves all over again. Let's see how it goes. The next morning, Clara woke up early. The sun was streaming through her window, and for the first time, the only sound was the gentle chirping of birds from the garden. She chose her outfit carefully, professional but with a creative flair. Leo had already left for his job as a librarian, but he'd left a fresh pot of coffee and a note on the table that read, "Knock 'em dead, -L double quote." Clara smiled, the kind gesture helping to settle her butterflies. The journey to the office was an adventure in itself. She took the subway, a roaring, screeching metal tube packed with a river of solemn faces. She felt anonymous, just another drop in the ocean of Northwood's commuters. The Creative Spark office was in one of the sleek glass towers she had seen from the car. The lobby was minimalist and chic, and the elevator ride to the 34th floor made her ears pop. A friendly receptionist pointed her towards a bright, open-plan office space buzzing with quiet energy. A woman with a stylish short haircut and a warm smile approached her. "You must be Clara," she said, extending a hand. "I'm Maya, the head of design. We're so thrilled to have you on the team. Come on, I'll show you the ropes." Maya gave her a quick tour, introducing her to a blur of new faces. Everyone seemed friendly, but Clara's mind was racing to remember their names. Finally, they arrived at a clean, white desk by a huge window with a breathtaking view of the city. "This is you," Maya said. "We'll get you set up with all the software." The first week is usually just about finding your feet, so don't feel pressured to dive in at the deep end. Just get to know everyone and how we do things around here. What a great start to her first day. Maya seems like a very supportive boss, which makes all the difference. There are some excellent work-related idioms in this section. Let's start with the encouraging note, "Leo left. Knock 'em dead." This is a very enthusiastic and informal way of telling someone to do a great job and impress everyone. It's like saying, "Good luck," but with much more energy. You would say it to an actor before they go on stage, a friend before a big presentation, or, like in this case, on someone's first day at a new job. It means to perform so well that your audience, or your new colleagues, are completely amazed. Let's do a quick practice. Your sister is a musician, and she is about to play her first big concert tonight. You are giving her a hug backstage before the show starts. What do you whisper in her ear to encourage her? Perfect. A big hug and a "go out there and knock 'em dead" would be the best encouragement she could ask for. Next, Maya tells Clara, I'll show you the ropes. This is a classic idiom that means to teach someone how to do a job or a task. It comes from the age of sailing ships, where new sailors had to be taught how to handle all the different ropes on the ship. Today, it's used for any situation where a newcomer needs to learn the procedures and customs of a new place. A senior colleague might say to a new hire, "Don't worry, I was new once too. I'll show you the ropes. Now, it's your turn. You are an experienced member of a local theater group. A new young actor has just joined who is very nervous. You want to make them feel welcome and offer to help them. What could you say?" That's a very kind offer. You could say, "Welcome to the group. Don't be nervous. It's a lot to learn at first, but I'll be happy to show you the ropes." Finally, Maya gives Clara some great advice. She says the first week is about finding your feet, and she shouldn't dive in at the deep end. Let's look at both of these. To find your feet is very similar to get your bearings. It means to become confident and comfortable in a new situation. It implies a period of adjustment. For example, it took me a couple of months to really find my feet when I first moved to this country. To dive in at the deep end means to start a new and difficult task or job without any preparation or introduction. It's the opposite of a slow and gentle start. For instance, on my first day as a chef, the head chef quit, and I had to cook for 100 people. I was really thrown in at the deep end. Maya is telling Clara to take her time, which is very reassuring. Let's do a practice that combines these two. Imagine you are giving advice to a friend who is starting a challenging new university course. You want to tell them not to take on the hardest projects immediately and to give themselves time to adjust. How would you phrase this advice using both idioms? Excellent advice. You could say, "My main advice is, don't dive in at the deep end by choosing the most difficult topic for your first essay. Just focus on finding your feet for the first month. Get to know your professors and how the library works." This is all incredibly practical language. Clara's first day is over, and now she is into the middle of her first week. The initial introductions are done, and she's starting to see how the company really works. Let's join her on Wednesday afternoon. By Wednesday, Clara was beginning to remember most of her colleagues' names. She was working on a small task, creating some social media assets, which was well within her comfort zone. At 2 p.m., an alert popped up on her screen. Brainstorming session mobile app project. Her stomach fluttered. This was the big project Maya had mentioned. She grabbed her notebook and followed a group of designers into a conference room with glass walls covered in notes and sketches. Maya started the meeting. "Okay, team, we need some fresh thinking on the user interface for the new wellness app. No bad ideas at this stage. Let's just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks." Clara stayed silent for the first 10 minutes, listening to the senior designers confidently present their ideas. They were so articulate, so experienced. She felt intimidated. She had a small idea sketched in her notebook, but she was too nervous to speak. Then she remembered Leo's note. Knock 'em dead. She took a breath. "Excuse me," she said, her voice a little shaky. "I was just wondering if we've considered a more minimalist, gesture-based navigation to make it feel less cluttered." A senior designer named Ben, who had a calm and thoughtful demeanor, looked at her sketch. "That's an interesting angle, Clara. Could you flesh that out a bit more?" The attention of the room was on her. She felt her cheeks get warm, but she explained her thinking. After she finished, Ben nodded slowly. "I like that. It's good to have a fresh pair of eyes on this. Let's explore that direction." He smiled at her, a genuine, encouraging smile. Clara felt a surge of relief and a small spark of pride. She had done it. That was a huge moment for Clara. Speaking up in your first big meeting is always nerve-wracking, but she did it. This scene was full of great language for professional settings. Let's start with the idiom Maya used. Throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. This is a fantastic expression for a brainstorming session. It means to suggest a lot of different ideas, even wild or unusual ones, to see which ones are good or effective. The wall is a metaphor for the problem, and the things you throw are the ideas. The ones that stick are the ones that have potential. A manager might say, "For this marketing campaign, I want radical ideas. Let's just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks." Now it's your turn. You and your friends are trying to decide where to go on holiday. You have very different ideas. You want to encourage everyone to share all their suggestions, no matter how crazy. What could you say? That's a great way to start the planning. You could say, "Okay, let's not rule anything out yet. Let's just throw all our ideas at the wall and see what sticks. Paris, camping, a beach. Put it all on the table." Next, let's look at Ben's comment. He said, "It's good to have a fresh pair of eyes on this." A fresh pair of eyes refers to a new person looking at a situation or problem. The idea is that someone who is not familiar with the project can see things that people who have been working on it for a long time might miss. They have a new perspective. For example, if you have been writing an essay for hours, you might ask a friend to read it. You could say, "Could you take a look at this? I need a fresh pair of eyes to see if it makes sense. Let's do a practice for this. You are a detective who's been working on a difficult case for weeks with no progress. Your boss brings in a new detective from another department to help. You are happy to have the help. What do you say to the new detective?" Perfect. You could shake their hand and say, "Thanks for coming." We've been staring at this evidence for so long we're getting nowhere. We could really use a fresh pair of eyes on this case. Finally, Clara's action of contributing her idea can be described by another great idiom: to throw your hat in the ring. Although it wasn't said explicitly, this is what she did. To throw your hat in the ring means to announce your intention to enter a competition or a contest, or in this case, to join a discussion by putting forward your idea. It comes from the old days of boxing, where a man would literally throw his hat into the boxing ring to signal that he wanted to challenge the champion. Today, you might use it for politics, like several candidates have already thrown their hat in the ring for the presidential election. Or in a business context, when the manager position became available, I decided to throw my hat in the ring and apply for it. Clara threw her idea hat into the ring. Now, for your practice. Your company has an internal competition to design a new logo. You are a talented designer, but you are a bit shy. Your friend encourages you to participate. What do you decide to do? Say your decision out loud using this idiom. Yours. Excellent choice. You could say, you know what, you're right. I'm going to throw my hat in the ring and submit a design. What have I got to lose? Brilliant work. So Clara has had a successful first week at work. She's starting to feel more confident and part of the team. Let's see how she's feeling by the end of the week. By Friday, Clara's head was swimming with new information. She had sat in on several meetings, contributed a few more small ideas, and had lunch with different colleagues each day. Everyone was welcoming, but she still felt like an outsider looking in. They all had their inside jokes and shared histories. She missed the easy comfort of her old job, her old friends. That afternoon, Maya called her into a small meeting room. Clara's heart sank a little. Was she doing something wrong? I just wanted to touch base with you before the weekend, Maya said with her usual smile. How are you settling in? It's a lot to take in, but everyone has been really helpful, Clara replied honestly, and it was great to be able to contribute to the app Brainstorm. Good. I know it can be a steep learning curve at first, Maya said, but I was really impressed with your ideas for the new mobile app project. Ben told me you had a great perspective. You've got a fresh perspective, and that's exactly why we hired you. I think you're going to be a great fit here. A wave of relief washed over Clara. Thank you, she said, genuinely touched. That means a lot. Go home, have a great weekend, and don't think about work, Maya said. Come back on Monday ready to hit the ground running on that app design. Clara walked back to her desk with a new spring in her step. Maybe, just maybe, she could really do this. That's just the kind of encouragement she needed. What a great boss Maya is. Let's analyze the language from their conversation. First, Maya says she wanted to touch base with Clara. This is a very common business and professional expression. It means to make brief contact with someone to get an update or to reestablish a connection. It's less formal than have a meeting. For example, you might say to a colleague, "I'll be out of the office this afternoon, but let's touch base on Monday morning to discuss the project." Now for your practice. You are working on a group project with a classmate. You haven't spoken for a few days. You want to send them a quick email to see how they are doing with their part of the work. What could you write as the first line of your email? 성취. That's perfect. You could write, "Hi Tom, I just wanted to touch base and see how you're getting on with your research for our presentation." It's friendly and professional. Next, Maya mentions a steep learning curve. This describes a situation where you have to learn a lot of new and difficult things in a very short period of time. If the curve on a graph is steep, it means it goes up very quickly. It's a great way to describe a challenging new job or skill. For example, learning the new software was a steep learning curve for the whole team, but now we're all comfortable with it. Let's have you try it. You've just started learning to play the violin. It is much more difficult than you expected. Your friend asks you how it's going. What do you say? That's a very accurate description. You could say, "It's fun, but it's a very steep learning curve." Just making a nice sound is incredibly difficult. Finally, Maya tells Clara to come back on Monday ready to hit the ground running. This idiom means to start something immediately with a lot of energy and enthusiasm without any delay. You are ready to be effective and successful from the very beginning. It's often used when talking about starting a new job or project. For example, we need to hire someone with experience who can hit the ground running and not require a lot of training. Now, for your final practice in this section, you are the manager of a sales team. You are giving them a motivational speech at the beginning of a new important month. What do you say to them to get them energized and ready to start working hard immediately? Excellent. That's very motivating. You could say, "All right, team, a new month starts today. I want us all to hit the ground running and make this our best month ever." Fantastic. Clara has successfully navigated her first week. She's feeling positive and ready for the weekend. This is her first ever weekend in Northwood. It's a chance to explore and see the city not as a commuter, but as a resident. Let's join her on Saturday morning. Clara woke on Saturday without an alarm clock for the first time in a week. The apartment was quiet. She wandered into the living room and found Leo sitting in a pool of sunlight, reading a book and sipping tea. "Morning," he said, looking up with a smile. "Sleep well?" "Like a log," she replied. "It's so nice not to have to rush anywhere." "What are your plans for the day?" "Well, I was thinking," he said, closing his book. Since you're a new resident of Riverside, it's my duty to introduce you to the Saturday morning farmers market. It's the heart and soul of the neighborhood. Fresh bread, local cheese, great coffee, you name it. That sounds amazing, Clara said, her eyes lighting up. I'd love that. An hour later, they were strolling down the main street towards the market square. The hustle and bustle was incredible. The air was filled with the sounds of a live folk band, vendors calling out their prices, and the chatter of hundreds of people. The smells were even better. Freshly baked pastries, sizzling bacon, and earthy scent of fresh vegetables. Clara felt a little overwhelmed, but in a good way. Wow, she said, you weren't kidding. It's a feast for the senses, isn't it? Leo laughed. We're spoiled for choice here. What do you fancy for dinner tonight? We could buy something fresh and cook. As they were looking at a stall piled high with colorful vegetables, a woman with a kind, weathered face smiled at them. Leo, good to see you. How's your dad doing? He's doing much better, Maria, thanks for asking, Leo replied warmly. I wanted to catch up with you. This is my new roommate, Clara. Clara, this is Maria. She grows the best tomatoes in the entire city. Clara smiled and shook Maria's hand. For the first time, she didn't feel like a tourist or a new employee. She felt like she was part of something. A little piece of a community. What a wonderful weekend scene. The market sounds so lively. This part of the story introduces some great vocabulary for social situations and describing places. Let's begin with the phrase hustle and bustle. This is a fantastic noun phrase used to describe a lot of busy, noisy activity. It perfectly captures the energy of a crowded market, a busy train station, or a big city. For example, I love the hustle and bustle of London, but sometimes I need to escape to the quiet countryside. It's almost always used in this exact form. Hustle and bustle. Now, for your practice. You have just moved from a small, quiet village to a huge, busy city. You are writing an email to your parents. How would you describe your new life using this phrase? Clara, that's a great description. You could write, it's so different here. I'm slowly getting used to the constant hustle and bustle of city life. It's very exciting. Next up is the expression, spoiled for choice. Leo says this about all the options at the market. If you are spoiled for choice, it means you have so many good options to choose from that it's difficult to make a decision. It's a positive problem to have. For example, the menu at that restaurant was huge. We were completely spoiled for choice. Let's do a practice. You are in a huge bookshop and you love to read. Your friend asks you if you have found a book yet. What do you reply? Perfect. You could say, I can't decide. There are so many amazing books here, I'm spoiled for choice. Finally, Leo says to the stall owner, Maria, I wanted to catch up with you. The phrasal verb to catch up with someone means to talk to someone you haven't seen for a while and find out what they have been doing. It's a very common and friendly expression for reconnecting with people. You might call a friend and say, "We haven't spoken in ages. Let's get a coffee this week and catch up." Now it's your turn to use it. You see an old friend from school in the supermarket. You are both in a hurry. What do you suggest you do soon? Excellent. That's a very natural thing to say. You could say, "It's so great to see you. I'm in a bit of a rush right now, but we absolutely have to catch up properly soon. I'll give you a call. You have done exceptionally well today." We followed Clara on her journey from the train to her new apartment, through her challenging first week at a new job, and into her first lovely weekend exploring her new neighborhood. We've learned idioms about nervousness, fresh starts, new situations, household problems, workplace challenges, and socializing. You are building an incredible toolkit of expressions that will make your English sound more fluent, more natural, and more expressive. The key is to keep practicing. Try to use one or two of these new phrases in your conversations this week. The more you use them, the more they will become a natural part of your vocabulary. Thank you so much for joining me, Jessica, here at English in Advance. I look forward to you joining us again for our next English practice session. Have a wonderful day.